Hello and welcome to the most awaited session on 1MD Live channel. The most awaited from the very beginning when we have started this series of sessions. All of the people who are reaching out are saying that they want to have a session on the children and how to deal with them during this pandemic, as well as how to successfully have. There are some school related questions. We have had a bunch of questions that we have had in the previous session. So I'll ask Dr. Shetty to first introduce this amazing panel, experts in their own right in different areas in child psychiatry, and then we'll take your questions, and we hope to answer all your questions. So feel free to keep commenting. Thank you.
Welcome again at 7 p.m. We have the 7 p.m. show every Sunday on mental health. And today we have four best psychiatrists of the country. They are child psychiatrists. And four things which are very common about them are all of them have studied in India as well as the United Kingdom. All of them have studied child psychiatry and spent a long time with different cultures, India as well as abroad. All of them practice child psychiatry only alone in India, and all of them have a multidisciplinary team along with them, and they are not sole heroes of the clinics where if you might recall Amitabh Bachchan saying that जहाँ से मैं खड़ा होता हूँ वहाँ से line शुरू होता है. That's not the state where what they actually do. They do a lot of things with everybody else, and that's the beauty of it. So India has arrived with bright child psychiatrists across the country and specialized in children only, children mental health, child mental health. Now, as we move ahead, the lady there is Sapna Nayak Banga. She's from Bombay, and she is a specialist child and adolescent psychiatrist with certificate of clinical training from the Royal College of Psychiatrists UK, has more than 14 years of experience as a psychiatrist with children. Special interests have been autism, neurodevelopmental issues, ADHD, etc. She has numerous publications in research journals, and she's currently working as the head of Empower, the center in Mumbai, run by Nirja Birla and her company, and which also has a school, an international school, which also goes by the same name. She's also very keenly working on suicide prevention. We have Bhushan Shukla, whose wife has been trimming his hair all the time during lockdown, or he himself has been trimming his hair. He's also MD, DNB, and MRC Psych, like all others. He's a child and adolescent psychiatrist. Shukla is trained in psychiatry in India and in the UK. Since 2000, he has been working to prevent child sexual abuse. Dr. Shukla's training program of No Go Tell in prevention abuse was also featured in Amir Khan's Satyameva Jayate and is also adopted by various NGOs and government agencies. Dr. Shukla has been a relentless advocate of mental health as important component of overall well-being. He works in schools, colleges, family courts, and the juvenile justice system. He conducts a lot of workshops across the country, and that's Bhushan Shukla. Then we have Bhushan Shukla is in Pune. Then we have Jai Ranjan Ram. Again, a different breed among psychiatrists. As an adolescent, he wanted to be a food critic and a travel guide. Unfortunately, his dreams of eating exotic food from all over the planet while he traveled remain still unfulfilled. But I think after the COVID era goes away, he might try traveling again. And he chose to far less interesting career of medicine instead. However, as a psychiatrist with special interest in children and young people, he gets to relive the dreams and aspirations of young minds and feels blessed that he has, in his own very small way, enabled some troubled minds to gain freedom and blossom. Dr. Jairanjan Ram is an MD in psychiatry from NIMHANS, Bangalore, and also has MRC psychiatry from UK and CCST in child and adolescent psychiatry. He has accreditation as a specialist in child and adolescent psychiatry in UK. He worked in UK for 11 years before returning to Kolkata and is a senior consultant attached to Apollo Gleneagles Hospital. He co-founded the Mental Health Foundation, which focuses on treatment of children, young people, and adults. He has a multidisciplinary team, a center of excellence, and that is our friend Jay Ranjan Ram. And Deepak Gupta here comes from Delhi. So here, Bombay, Pune, Kolkata, and Delhi. The Deepak Gupta generally never stops smiling. He's a child and adolescent psychiatrist, founder director of Center for Child and Adolescent Wellbeing, CCAW, New Delhi, a multidisciplinary service center since 2005, providing comprehensive child and adolescent mental health service under one roof. He's a senior consultant with Sir Gangaram Hospital in Delhi and runs a 2-year fellowship program in pediatric psychiatry. After completing his MD psychiatry from Manipal Academic of Higher Education, Kasturba Medical College in Manipal, he must have picked up Kannada and Tulu, I do not know. He did diploma in child and adolescent psychiatry from the Maudsley Institute of Psychiatry, King's College, London, and was conferred the Donald Cohen Fellowship, and in 2008 was nominated as an honorary member of the prestigious American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, USA. He is a trained ENDR practitioner working with children and adolescents with psychological trauma. He has a lot of credentials. He's be very embarrassed if I read everything because he's Deepak Gupta for us from Delhi. So let me start by saying that child is the father of man. It takes a whole village to raise a child. And the simplest minds are the most profound. But there have been issues after the COVID disaster. There have been issues after the Latur disaster, after the cyclone at Kandla, after the riots, and we have seen it all. Before we ask you any questions, I would ask you to freely share your opening remarks. Anybody can start, but I think the lady has the privilege to start first. Sapna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm so looking forward to hearing from everyone else, all the esteemed speakers today. I think what we have observed is, this is something that none of us would not have predicted. It's something that doesn't come with a rule book. I think previously, if there was anything going wrong, we would go to our, say, parents or some more experienced people. Now even they are at a lurch about what is happening. So it is a new situation that we've all been put into. And I think, according to me, from whatever I have observed, I'm also a mom of two under the age of 10, as I was sharing with people before. So I have, I'm seeing from personal experience as well about what is happening in my house. I think the children somewhere have, developed resilience in how they're coping with this situation. Some have really blossomed as well, if I may say so. In my experience, I think I have a couple of them who, before the COVID situation, was struggling really badly, going to school, being bullied in school, being, almost having suicidal thoughts, and not being able to deal with the academic pressures, not parents being high achievers and not having enough time to give their children. And we are seeing a cohort of these children who are doing really well now, because they've got the stability of having more time with their parents almost, and not having the almost the external pressures being taken away. We don't know, this might be a false alarm that once we go back to, as we say, the real life, and out of a bubble from now, they might have trouble that is, or problems that are double than what they were having before. We don't know. But at least for now, I think there is a cohort of children who are doing relatively okay. And then there is obviously children with neurodevelopmental delays, with learning difficulties, with autism, uh, for which this has been a really really difficult time, because there is a lot of confusion, there is complete lack of what they have been used to, there's no routine that they were used to, obviously, and that cohort is really struggling. I think the parents are struggling even more than, I think, to be fair, in this whole situation, from personal experience as well, I think the parents have struggled more than the children.
Thank you, Sapna. I heard from a lady who assists me in my family for cooking. She called up and said, "माझा मुलगा टपोरी होता," but during the disaster, he has risen to the occasion and he's organizing a lot of stuff in his chawl, in his community, in his mohalla. So we see a lot of surprises. Those kids who are good for nothing have become leaders. And I think when faced with real challenges, the best of the traits or the habits or the values of children can be expressed. Yes, Bhushan.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that this has been an unprecedented challenge. And for parents mainly, children are surprisingly doing well because outside of the epicenters of Corona like Mumbai, Pune, Ahmedabad, Delhi, rest of the places have not been greatly touched. See, 99% of us are going to come out of this epidemic absolutely untouched anyway. So children have somewhere realized that they have huge opportunity on hand where there is no school, there is time in their hand. Even when they sit for their Zoom classes, they can switch off the video and they can actually open another window and do other interesting stuff for themselves. So children have been phenomenally innovative in entertaining themselves. They have got unlimited internet access now, and they have their parents at beck and call. And I'm sure that most of the parents who were so far cribbing that we don't get enough time with children must have realized that though there are our own children, there is a limit how much time you want to spend with them. Absolutely. I have a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old, and both of them have risen to the occasion. We do pile up a lot of housework on them because me and my wife, both of us, need to go out to work. She's a intensive care specialist, so right at the head of facing epidemic of COVID. So, but girls have risen to the occasion, and that is same thing that I hear in the clinic. That kids are actually standing up and helping their parents and having fun. Yep.
Thank you, thank you. On this optimistic note, I would like to also share that Indian children, though they are living in nuclear families, there's no nuclear family in India. It's always a joint family because there's a kaka in Delhi, a mama in Raipur, and there's a neighbor, auntie who has some control over the children. There are ex-teachers, there are teachers, friends. So there are a lot of resources to assist the child apart from the mental health professional. Fantastic, Deepak.
Yeah, so I will speak from both the perspective as a father of two daughters, 19-year-old and 16-year-old, and as a professional also. What I saw initially when this all started, I was nervous, I was jittery. I don't know how it will come up and how it will shape up because as Sapna said, Dr. Sapna said, nobody was aware of it, what will come up and how it will shape up. Everybody was speculating, everybody was distributing gyan. Everybody was trying to say, ye karo, ye mat karo, aise mat karo. They were preaching. But nobody knew it, ki kab tak kya hoga. So what I learned in this, that it really helped me to connect with my daughters. Yes, definitely, as Bhushan said, they came up with the occasion, definitely, and they definitely help in the household chores. All our maids went off, and we only four was me, my wife, and two daughters were there at home. So we divided, Initially 10 days it was a chaos. कौन क्या करेगा कैसे करेगा क्या होगा it was some little bit fights also happened there was the overlapping of boundaries were there it's a little bit of soft battles were there, but then gradually we divided into a chores. We started having everything, breakfast, lunch, dinner together, cooking together. They started baking up lovely cakes and muffins and cookies. So I was definitely, it was good for my tummy, but yes, definitely we all started bonding together. So as a parent in this thing, as a professional, definitely children who are with special needs, yes, parents struggle with that. Parents are struggling with that because they were going to therapy centers, therapeutic interventions, schools. They had a routine. Suddenly they got stopped, and parents were not equipped how to handle them. That was a biggest challenge. On the other hand, the children who had emotional difficulties, as Sapna said, they were able to gel very well, and gradually they found their own innovative ways and creative ways to settle down themselves. They got more zeal. They were started doing some more innovative activities. They started bonding with, and as you said, it's a big joint family, the whole world. So they were connecting with other people, the grandparents, uncles, friends, all of them. So what I saw was that it was a spectrum. It was like a spectrum of things coming up. You can't say that yes. Overall, I said yes. It was a blessing in disguise. A very, very strong connectedness. There was silver lining to the cloud, and I think apprehension was there in the air. But simultaneously, lot of love, lot of bonding, lot of connectedness, lot of warmth was coming up. And families got together. Families got together. That's what I can say. So I think we learned a lot of things, and still we are learning. It was a very big learning lessons. And I think even a previous generation, You know, I'm in late 40s. My previous generation also never knew this thing will happen, and the next generation also. So I think we have opened a whole Pandora box where we have learned lot of things. And I think this all time also gave us a lot of self work with our children. So when we were working on our own self, lot of things got reflected. This is not my experience, even my friends. My friends experience was there, that they learned so many things which they couldn't learn, which they couldn't observe. So they were very observant about their children. Lot of parents says, हमने 2 महीने बच्चे को ऐसे वॉच करके देखा, हमने कभी देखा ही नहीं था अपने बच्चे को ऐसा, हमने ऐसी नजर से देखा उसको, हमें लगता है ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी, प्रॉब्लम कुछ और थी डॉक्टर दीपक, आई थिंक ये वजह थी, हमें शायद इस पे काम करना पड़ेगा, हम गलत डायरेक्शन में जा रहे थे. So a lot of things opened up for us. So I think it's a like whole Pandora box which has opened up with COVID-19 and lot of learning, and we have to unlearn a lot of things. कहते हैं ना, जैसे जैसे बड़े होते हो आपको बहुत चीजें अनलर्न करनी पड़ती हैं. ये नहीं कि आप उसी एक फिक्स रेजिम के साथ चलते रहो, नहीं जी यही है ऐसे ही फॉलो करना है, नहीं. So this COVID-19 has given a lot of reflections and a lot of things to unlearn. That's what I can say.
I think fantastic. I still remember the husband who started appreciating the old sari which the wife was wearing. The wife was shocked and she called me up, what is wrong with him? वो तो मैं 50 बार पहना हूँ. I said, when there's a lot of time, there's eye for small detail, and I think that is very beautiful. Also, globalization has disconnected the world. Corona has reconnected the family. I think that's something which is very important. From China, there are a lot of reports of children having behavioral issues because they are not able to go to school. Yes, Jai Ranjan Ram. And when you
No,
go
I,
when you go
yeah, I
abroad,
will agree
when
with.
you go abroad for to have your food, I'm going to accompany you also. Maybe the others will also try.
I will just echo what already has been said. I think couple of points really. This whole pandemic put us, all of us, in a pause mode, and it helped us to connect and observe the world better. One of the very temperamental 14-year-olds I see said when we met recently in the OPD, she said that, and that symbolizes what children have learned. She said that I'm much more appreciative of our bai who comes to wash our utensils, because for last 1 month we all shared that, and now I will respect her more. So in a way, this has been a lesson for all of us, including children, how connected we all are. The food which comes to our plate has got contribution from everyone. So I think this has been a wonderful opportunity for adults around their children to teach them a lot of skills, teach them gratitude, teach them reflection. And I think, personally, uh, if you allow me, Harish, I will
Of
go
course,
out on
go
a
ahead.
limb, and I would say that it might disappoint a lot of mental health professionals. I believe that this whole fear about mental illness, pandemic after the corona crisis, and this scaremongering, uh, fortunately, I don't believe it's going to be true, because the amount of resilience which people have shown going through this crisis is a very hopeful sign.
Absolutely,
And
I
many
think
of us would be redundant. I would just kind of echo what Sapna and Deepak said, that all of us in child and adolescent mental health see a lot of children with disabilities. But again, children with disabilities, their parents, they have survived, they have managed, they have learned new skills and made us feel redundant. So, which I'm so happy about. And I think we must respect and, salute what this pandemic, as there are many unfortunate things, but I think it has also taught us many lessons in resilience.
so. My dear friends, all the viewers, you have heard positive sounds, positive meanings of the entire pandemic, and everybody believes that the resilience of the Indian is different. Of course, true. In the last 1500 years, 2000 years, we have faced so many epidemics, wars, invasions, but still we have survived. Akkadian civilization went away, Sumerian went away, Greek went away, but this body of people on the eastern part of the globe have survived. So there's the first question, which also links with the question which I wanted to ask you all, each one of you. We can start with Sapna. Sapna, you have been very passionately involved with ADHD, autism, and all of us also. And uh, I've seen that a lot of children with ADHD and autism who are a little hyperactive, their parents, especially when they're only mother and father, have been finding it difficult to hold them. And I have written to three or four secretaries of buildings to just give them some space, some way by which they could walk around the building, say once a day or twice a day. I do not know about your experiences. And we have a question from Sujay Ghosh. My daughter is 5 years and 9 months old. She has ADHD and mild ASD, autistic spectrum disorder. For others who do not understand this, I would say that ADHD are hyperactive children, or they're very inattentive, or they're very impulsive children. They're all called as mastikor children in schools and colleges. They're called as children who घर का इज्जत सब खत्म करता है, ऐसा बच्चे हैं. At times she gets very irritated with small things. How do I control her? We can start with Sapna, and others can also add.
So I think in my experience with the lockdown, what happens is all the strategies that can be almost like, what are useful for other children become extremely essential in children with say autism or ADHD. When we say that, you should be having a proper routine, a proper structure to your day, and it is something that is extremely important for children, but specifically with neurodevelopmental, it is extremely non-negotiable almost. So as much as possible, if parents can replicate their usual routine that they had whilst they before the lockdown, so and break it down into really small chunks, simple things like, make it very concrete to say, we are going to wake up at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever your time might be, but waking up at a certain time. Then we are going to brush our teeth, then we are going to have breakfast. So having, your structured day routine very specifically put out there. And children with a mild ASD, or they like the visual learning is much more. So if you can put, for example, a timetable with photographs, or like, a simple drawing to say this is the time that we are going to do things, they pick it up much easier. It is much easier for them to know what they're doing, because what happens and why they have behavioral issues or tantrums, or they are uncontrollable, is because they are lost. They don't know what they're going to be doing. It is very confusing for them, because suddenly that structure has been taken away, and we know that that structure is essential for them. So I would say having a proper routine and structure and sticking to that as much as possible. Second is good communication. I think communication works well with all children. So having, even if they have LD, maybe we'll have to repeat what coronavirus is a little more than what we would have done with our, normally typically developing children. But again, social stories work really well, where we have pictures about, and there are quite a few online that you can find, where you can sit and explain to the child about what, why we are doing what we are doing. So why is hand washing important, why is social distancing important, why are mom and dad at home. So building a narrative around that and making it as concrete as possible. uh, I think with ADHD, it becomes extremely important that you have, as you were saying, Dr. Shetty, the somewhere they need that outlet of the excess energy that they have. So to be as creative as we can at home, so we can, even tire them out, as we say sometimes. And unfortunately, at the moment, we can't take them to parks or have that unstructured play as much as possible if we can do it at home. So I would say, playing games like putting on the music and dancing for an hour. It's like, it's fun, it's a family time together. It also, helps the children to let out that energy. So playing games that might use that excess energy, getting them to exercise, even if it's in the balcony of the house. It is like, you're getting enough sunlight during the day, plus you're giving them the things to do, involving them in chores. That is, I think, that somewhere culturally India has not been that much in the forefront. We do not. So it also has a two-edged sword of making them learn life skills. So whatever they're capable of, so even little children can be given chores of setting up the table. I have seen my kids, like, as we were saying, that they have helped out in even washing the utensils. So depending on their developmental age, we can start involving them in chores, and this also gives them a sense of self-esteem build up, as well as somewhere they feel that they have a responsibility to do, so they will thrive in that. So keeping them occupied becomes extremely important. So these were some of the tips, and I think as parents of children who have neurodevelopmental difficulties, my only thing is, please take care of yourselves as well, because I think as before the lockdown there was more sharing of, at least the parents were getting some respite when the children were going to the, even if it was a special school or school. Now it is whole and soul the parents who are responsible. So I would say it becomes extremely important that you take care of yourself as well. Don't try to be perfect parents. Good enough parenting is, what we should be aiming for in this point in time.
Absolutely. So you said there should be a structure, there should be chores, there should be activity for children who are hyperactive. You might dance, and of course, take help from other resources, other parents with whom you are in touch. See that you are connected with other parents, so that you're not alone in this entire business. Bhushan,
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with Sapna. I would like to talk about children who are on the milder side of that spectrum, where who have had emotional difficulties or relationship difficulties or interactional difficulties. And I think this is a good opportunity for parents to realize what contributes how much to child's difficulties. We always talk about a biopsychosocial developmental model when we talk about children. Now that these children are at home, their exposure to their friends is reduced, their travel time is practically zero, they are not going to face the school where they had difficulties. How is this child handling himself or herself? This gives us a great idea about exactly what kind of support the child needs. Many times, as mental health professionals, we have this ongoing battle and struggle with parents to help them understand exactly where the child is facing difficulties. And this has been a kind of lab test for parents to know whether the home environment which is responsible for more disturbance. Again, no single factor is wholly responsible, but at least now we can see the contribution where it is coming from. Another thing that I have heard from a few children, and this is going to be very unsettling for parents, is that, see, many of us have been privileged people where we have our jobs. Roji roti ki chinta nahi hai. There is a lot of work, but there is work and there is at least some amount of money coming in. So we are not panicking financially at this point of time. Children have seen their parents working from home for 12 hours and 14 hours a day. And this is something that has scared a lot of children. They have seen their parents locked up in a room in front of a computer screen or on the phone, typing away, being extremely exhausted. And a lot of children, I've heard this from at least three children. They said that my parents tell me that you educate yourself, you will get a good job. Doc, is this what I'm headed for? Is this going to be my life, that I become an engineer, I join a big company, I get a good salary? But I have seen my parents working round the clock, and it's not funny, it's not nice. Have I got the right advice, doc, what I should be doing? Should I be really studying so hard? I want to do something else. So a lot of children who are introspective, who are observant, are going to ask all these questions. And this is a big issue that parents are going to face. Now it is going to get even more complicated because now the lockdown is gradually lifting, and a lot of parents will go out, they will have to work in their offices, put in some hours, and the schools and colleges are not open yet. So these children are going to be at home. How do they look after themselves? Who monitors them? What happens to their internet use? And how do parents do that? Are all going to be questions that we'll have to face one by one. But the most difficult question is going to be, if I'm going to grow up to become a 14-hour a day kind of work person, do I really want this education? Is it really good for me?
I think this existential dilemma is a very big dilemma, and it's so important for children to express these concerns, and it's so important for us to respect those concerns and not brush it under the carpet. Both of you, Sapna and Bhushan, beautifully said. Jai Ranjan Ram.
Yeah, I think for any behavior problems, be it with neurotypical children or children with problems, we have to act as detectives. Uh, my favorite film star, Robert De Niro, in one of the films said, "Nothing happens because of nothing." So I think we need to remember that adage, that if the child is expressing some disruptive behavior, some emotional problems, we need to look the story behind it, why it is happening. And I believe that parents know their children best, so they have to piece the puzzle together, maybe get in touch with teachers, other friends. One of the best ways of finding out is to observe the child with an open mind and see why this new behavior problem is coming up. And once we get an idea about the source of the problems, then, as Sapna said, there are many, many solutions. So, but I think the key thing is that we have to act as detectives. Detectives piecing the puzzle together and getting and trying to get an explanation why this new problem behavior has arisen. And I think that would, with help, talking to other parents, talking to the professionals, almost 99.99% of the times we are able to arrive at a solution.
I think so well said that behind the behavior is a story, and behind the story there are many stories. Yes, Deepak.
So I think a lot of points have already been said, but I'll put down summary into ABC. ABCs. A means activities, B means be careful about their structure, and C, connect and communication. If you do these three things, I'm sure the children will be quite busy, quite connected, and their well-being will be well taken care of. One thing which Dr. Jayaranjan Ram was talking about, the trigger. Again, I will request the parents, yes, like the detective, you can use again ABC, antecedent behavior consequence, and see why this behavior is causing. What is causing this behavior? A. And a lot of time I tell to the parents, if you're able to modify that A, the B will be well taken care of. So the simple strategy of ABC, whether in a positive way, activity, be structured, and connect and communication, or antecedent behavior and consequence, the simple ABC can really help you in this difficult time if you're having it. Otherwise, one more thing. A lot of parents, I keep on emphasizing, please enjoy these moments. When you start enjoying these moments, the pressure eases off. अदरवाइज जो प्रेशर बढ़ता रहता है कुकर की तरह, वो फटता है ना, सीटी नहीं निकल पाता. तो वो सीटी निकालना जरूरी है. एंजॉय करो इसको. मुसीबत में चाहे 12 घंटे काम करना हो, 14 घंटे काम करना हो, मुसीबत मत समझो. मजा करो. मजा करोगे, मस्त होके करोगे, तो आप बच्चों के अंदर पॉजिटिविटी देख पाओगे. और याद रखो, आपका बच्चा है, तो अगर आप इंटेलिजेंट हो तो बच्चों में कोई ना कहीं, चाहे कितनी भी कोई डिफिकल्टीज हो, उसके अंदर कोई ना कोई क्रिएटिविटी और इनोवेशन होती है. उसकी क्रिएटिविटी को जानो डिटेक्टिव बन के, और उस क्रिएटिविटी को एनकैश करो. तो ये टाइम है जब आप सिर्फ क्रिएटिविटी को एनकैश कर सकते हो, ऑब्जर्व करके, लेंस के थ्रू, है ना. नेगेटिव पे इतना फोकस मत करो. पॉजिटिव पे फोकस करेगा तो मेरे मुताबिक धीरे धीरे वो चीजें ढलती रहेंगी. तो एंजॉय करो, मजा करो, मस्ती करो, साथ में एबीसी का ध्यान रखो.
Absolutely, Deepak. I think both of you have said that.
Harish, yeah. I just want to mention this thing really. This might sound like a bit of a contrarian point, but even if we are angry and upset, we can express them, discuss it, which I feel is a great thing, because then children learn that if someone in the family is upset, we can come and express it. So it is absolutely human to feel angry and upset. We have had a bad day at work. I might be angry about my work not going well, something else happening. So I think conversations about how we feel, if it happens in adults, children learn that they can also talk about all kinds of emotions. So we, as Deepak said, that we should not be under pressure to be the perfect parents. We can mess up numerous times and say that, look, no one is perfect. Each of us are allowed to fail, and so are you.
Absolutely. I think imperfect parenting, trying to be as good is the best thing what Sapna said. And both of you said that parents have to be a little Sherlock Holmes and detective. That's beautifully said. Also, it's so important, as Jay said, that we need to have a feeling quotient in the family. Express feelings, not adjectives or sarcasm. I think that is the message. I go back to Bhushan for this question. Do you think kindergarten should have online classes?
Uh, See, I think kindergartens have a very specific purpose in society where, because now we live in these small, isolated families, children get a great opportunity to socialize. And the age group that we are talking about are the children who are touchy feely children, who play with each other, they hug each other, they fight, they do so many things together, and they learn a lot by seeing other children do things. So the peer learning, or what Vygotsky used to be called the zone of proximate development, is really important for these children, right? That is an opportunity which is real crux of kindergarten experience, getting outside your family and learning to live with people who are not your blood relatives, who are not your immediate relatives. This is where the social growth starts. I think doing that online is a complete antithesis of what kindergarten really stands for. And my concern is a child watching his or her teacher, a 2.5, 3.5 year old child, watching their teacher on a small screen is really not helpful for them. So I think society's housing complexes can now, with a slight release in the lockdown norms, can actually have groups of children there. Parents can take turns and do all these activities. Schools can guide them. There are a lot of online resources available. So at least children in a small area can see each other. Their socialization is important. Their coming together is important. So let us look at that instead of pushing a 2.5 year old to stare at a screen for 2 hours. That will be really harmful.
That is very cruel. And I completely agree with you. We should actually, all of us should write to the central government and the state government to relax the norms for children with special needs and children in kindergarten. Beautifully said. You all agree with them, or you want to add something here?
No, absolutely. I think, one of the journalists recently rang me up and she wanted a quote on apparently a 6 or 7 year old girl who has been having online classes, went and kissed her teacher on the screen. So she was asking that, what impact all these online classes would be having. And as Bhushan said, I didn't know that kindergarten children are having online classes. So I think that's terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Deepak, I'll come back to you. It's really difficult to maintain. A seventh standard girl's mother says it's really difficult to maintain her temperament as she's not able to go outside for the last 3 months. She told, I can't see except two of you. I'm getting bored of you guys.
See, this is again some of the children have expressed and that they're getting bored in the four walls. But what I tell to the parents again, explore the four walls of your house with your child. Connect with them and communicate with them. Cherish those moments which you have not done. So do something interesting with them. Do something creative with them. What you have not done before. वो चीज करो जो पहले कभी नहीं करी. वो बातें करो जो कभी पहले नहीं करी. वो चीज शेयर करो जो कभी पहले शेयर नहीं करा. आपके चार दीवारों में फोर वॉल्स में there's so much stuff is there which you can do it. In the lounge, in the balcony, in the veranda, in the stairs, a lot of things can be done. You can create, you can paint, you can cook together, you can do some planting together. So important thing is that the parent, because if she's only 3 people in the house and parents are busy and she is left alone, definitely she'll get bored. So they have to become part of the life of the child. You can't just leave child alone. So that way you have to enter a world. उसकी जिंदगी में घुसना पड़ेगा हमें एज अ पेरेंट. वो हमारा बच्चा है, हम उसको छोड़ देंगे तो वो फिर बोर होगा क्योंकि उसको तो अपने फ्रेंड्स चाहिए. 13, 14 साल, 12 साल, 13 साल के बच्चे को तो अपने फ्रेंड्स चाहिए, घर से बाहर जाके मजा करना है. लेकिन पॉइंट ये है कि क्या हम उसके दोस्त बन सकते हैं इस 2 महीने में, 2.5 महीने में जो हमें मौका मिला है? क्या हम उसके करीब आ सकते हैं? तो आप जितना करीब जाने की कोशिश करोगे आपको धक्का देगी वो, कोई बात नहीं, और कोशिश करो आराम से. हैव पेशेंस. सो लॉट ऑफ पेशेंस. Be creative, be innovative, acknowledge for small things. Lot of time इन बच्चों को लगता है कि मेरे पेरेंट्स acknowledge नहीं करते, तो acknowledge for small things, she will get sucked into them मेरे मुताबिक. तो patience, acknowledgement, be calm, simultaneously connect and communicate with lot of sharing, lot of experiences. जब आप ऐसे मैंने अपने साथ किया, मैंने ऐसी ऐसी बातें अपने बच्चों को शेयर करी स्कूल की, जो शुरू में मुझे शर्म तो आ रही थी, बट व्हेन आई शेयर्ड विद देम, they got so interested in me. I told when I was in St. Xavier School, in Rajnivas, Mark Civil Lines Daily, what used to happen when I was in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, what all mischiefs I did. So
I
gradually,
know, we all know that. We all know that. Go ahead, go ahead.
absolutely, absolutely. And let me tell you one thing, जब हम सच बोलते हैं, हमारे बच्चे हमारी सच को समझ पाते हैं और हमसे जुड़ते हैं, तो सच बोल के उनसे कनेक्ट होने की कोशिश करो. ऐसी ऐसी बात तो मेरे मुताबिक ये इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है. आई थिंक व्हेन यू विल डू these things, your child will get interested in you. Create that environment where they can get interested in you and your activities.
I think
Also,
fantastic.
another thing, Harish, that there is uh, social network, video calls and all that. Friends, you can have a Zoom meeting with your friends and stuff. The other important thing I would just like to add to Deepak is give children responsibility regarding how the day will be structured. So the daughter decides that who is going to cook, what will be cooked. So it's important for life skills, and also they take some responsibility in managing things, and loads of ways parents have connected. One of the very good ways which one of the mothers told me was she got out all her old pictures from her university days, from her childhood days, and she would sit with her two sons and would tell the stories about her own university life, school life, which she felt was very, very useful. So uh, I think there is a variety of ways, and also we need to assure that it's this 13-year-old is not the only one who is going through this process, and she's lucky to have a roof over her head when there are thousands of people who are homeless. And so there are many ways we can use this boredom, not only to alleviate it, but also make them learn that boredom and frustration is a part of life, and we have to accept it.
Absolutely. I think what beautiful. I advised a few mothers to pick up the birthday pictures of your kids when they were very small and tell them exactly what happened. And that was so beautiful that they really interacted well. I go back to Sapna. Lot of older teens, girls and boys are not helping out much at home, and not nothing seems to work. Also, days are nights and nights are days for them. So they are all awake at night. And
So again, it comes down to, having strict and consistent rules about each household. There has to be consistency in what we are expecting out of our teenagers. If you let them, lounge for the whole day and not do anything, I think I would take that life. You have to make them realize that they have responsibilities towards this house as well, and unless they do that, then they don't get, there has to be some consequences about if they don't help out in the house, then they don't get their time with their friends, or their phone gets taken away. So I think somewhere some consequences about being able to do that in the household. So everybody has to have an equal responsibility in the household, especially older children. This is an apt time of teaching them those life skills which are extremely, extremely important, that we have all been talking about. So simple things like, getting them to cook, getting them to, learn washing up, even helping cleaning the house. All those are extremely important for them to get a grasp of, and to learn that, this is, unless you have unless you do something, you don't get something in return. So the consequences have to be there as well. I believe more in positive, reinforcement rather than negative. So rather than punishment, it has to
what
be
do
a
you
lot.
mean by that? What do you mean by that in simple terms?
So
Positive
positive
reinforcement.
reinforcement is like, a lot of appreciation, lot of, giving them something. And when we say negative reinforcement or punishment, is punishment, we all, I think, know. Negative reinforcement is taking away some privilege that they have. So I think if we children learn, according to me, more with positive reinforcement, so the appreciation, to say that, like for little children, for younger children as well, if you say, if you do A, B, and C, I'm going to put this much, a small token of, I'll put 10 rupees in your piggy bank, for example. For older children, it might be something little bit more, but something that reinforces their ability to do it. So unless you put those boundaries in place, they are never going to change. So even the night and day, for example, if you give them enough things to do during the day, they're going to be, what happens is, mainly during this lockdown, people are not, children especially, are not getting tired, so they don't feel sleepy in the night. So the thing is, you get them a proper structure during the day, and then mostly they are on social media in the night, which is not healthy at all, I think, because you don't know what kind of news feeds they are getting in the
How do
night.
you how do you how do you how do you turn that behavior around? What do you do to really bring them back to sleep at as and when they should, rather than staying awake all night and sleeping all day? That's a big problem.
That's a
I will
big
ask
problem.
others also to ask.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
I can answer that question, yeah, I think reversal of day night, or as we technically call it as a phase advance, where your sleeping time gradually is postponed. So you wake up a little bit late, and before you know, your day has turned to night, as this particular parent has experienced, is very common in adolescents. It has happened to all of us. And now it has become even more complicated because the regular structure of day night is destroyed. Previously, children had to, previously as in before the lockdown, children had to get up early in the morning to start their schedule. So no matter what time they slept, there was a fixed wake up time, and that sets your brain clock in place. So they can't really stay up till 3 o'clock in the night because they have to get up at 7 o'clock anyway. That has been disturbed. So if parents are expecting this to turn around magically, it doesn't happen. We know that biologically it is impossible for a child to bring back their sleep wake cycle back to normal within a few minutes or a few days. You can probably aim for half an hour per week or 1 hour per week as a reasonable target to start shifting that. And it must start by waking the child up early, half an hour or 1 hour early than what is their present time, and also making sure that the sleep hygiene is maintained. That if you are expecting the child to go to bed at certain time, then they must have had dinner about an hour and a half before that. They should probably go and have a bath. They should definitely have switching off of the screen at least 2 hours before their bedtime. So gradually you are conditioning the brain to go to sleep at that point of time. It is not an easy task, and no adolescent is going to give away their screen so easily just because one doctor on the screen said that. It is going to be up and down for parents, but it is something that can be done bit by bit. Chipping away at it gradually helps. Physical exercise in daytime helps. So there are a lot of small little sleep hygiene things. If the parent who has asked this question just Googles the word sleep hygiene, and they will find out how to go about this in a small tiny bit of the way, once at a time.
Absolutely. Before I go to Jay and
Can I just, very
yeah,
sorry
yeah,
to
please,
interrupt
please,
you.
please, no, please go ahead, please
Can
go
I
ahead.
share a story which I read in the newspaper about switching the screen off? And it was, this news became, quite popular. It became viral. There was this 13-year-old girl in UK who uh, was alone in the house, and she was cooking something and set the fire alarm off because she was watching, I think, talking to someone on Instagram or having a chat, and the alarm went off and the fire brigade came and all that. So what her mother did was she banished all screens from home, so computer, laptop, Apple Watch, iPad, everything. She then used her smart LG fridge and tweeted that I am going to be incommunicado. So, many parents say that switching off screen has become so difficult because children find innovative ways. And here, this girl used an LG smart fridge to tweet or send a message. So I think parents do have a very complex task. But I think
Agreed,
unless
agreed.
we try,
Yeah,
unless we try, we won't be successful.
Deepak, yeah, you're saying
See,
something.
one thing which I also see, that parents also have to be good role model. What I have
Absolutely.
seen, when children are sleeping at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, or 6 o'clock, parents are also sleeping at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Even the structure of parents also have become chaotic. So that's one word of caution. Please look into yourself before you pinpoint fingers on others, especially your children. Second thing, what I've done, a technique I tried with even including my daughter and with one or two parents, I've told, send them an article related to what is happening. So if something related to the screen or hazard is there, which has come recently, and because sometimes they rather than you preaching, when it comes something a powerful article, so I send them the article or a link which talks about how this can be harmful. How can this be have a physical hazard or the mental hazard? How can it impact your eyes, your body, your body aches or neck aches, all those things? How it can impact their performance? So when they read that article, they start little bit getting impacted with it. So I think this is slightly thing is that. And third thing, which is having a good communication with them, a good communication with them and talking to them gradually, as Bhushan said, it's not a magic thing, but yes, these all three things put into place slowly makes a difference.
Absolutely. I think very beautiful. And one important point here is children who have difficulties with parents and studies, they gravitate towards the screen. That is something we need to look at. Children who are depressed also and it's masked, you're not visible, they might just gravitate to the screen because that helps them to be less anxious at that point of time. This is something we need to look at. And if you cannot do it, don't call your astrologer, call up a friendly neighborhood psychologist or a psychiatrist. This is the time to have a family priest, of course, but to have a family counselor also. Uh, I saw a question. A child has OCD, and he has got a lot of memories. 13-year-old child son had severe pure OCD and also has false memories. OCD has been suffering since 1 year and has become worse since the lockdown actually started. Very sensitive question from Vinay Shaw. Anybody can start. Anybody?
I think OCD, 13-year-old having OCD is a difficult proposition really, and I think with such change and anxiety all around, we all know that OCD worsens during times of anxiety, during times of high stress. So there must be reasons why the OCD symptoms have increased. Many of the young people we see, I must say that all of you would agree that they have increased their washing hands and the cleanliness rituals have increased. Now, so therefore, we need to look into why the OCD has increased, what kind of measures have been taken to reduce the symptoms, and also how is the child being helped to overcome the symptoms. But I think it needs a greater evaluation, detailed discussion with the treatment team.
Absolutely. And there are new protocols also for OCD during COVID, and that would be very good for everybody, all the viewers to have a look at it. And this cannot be answered across a seminar. The gentleman should see a psychiatrist and have a intense one-to-one chat. Hello, sir and madam. My daughter is 14 years old and she will be appearing for boards in 2021. She has ADHD and ODD. She takes medicines before her studies. She is facing problems in online studies due to lack of concentration. Please help what to do. But I think also what is very important with children with disabilities is people have stopped methylphenidate because it's not available. The telemedicine guidelines have not been sensitive to children with special needs, and they have to go with the physical prescription when there are no trains, there are no buses, there are no cars, and there are no autos to the shop to get it. The guys who have made this telemedicine guidelines, which also involves the psychiatrist and the body which has superseded MCI, have been very insensitive to children with special needs and to psychiatry as a whole. So that is something. So if you can answer this, my daughter is 14. She'll be appearing for board. She has ADHD and ODD. She takes medicine before her studies, but her lack of concentration. Sapna, Bhushan.
So I think online studies are difficult for normal people, typical children as well, as we all know, because it is, that many more distractions. As Dr. Shetty, you clearly said in the beginning, or Bhushan also said that, you can easily shut your window or shut your video and go and do something else without anyone knowing what you're doing. So the propensity to get distracted is obviously there. So with children with ADHD, we understand that it's going to be, that much more difficult because there are no teachers to, physically there to get them back into the class. I would say having a workstation away from all the distractions as much as possible will be something to look at. So even simple things like having a room just for that, with as much distractions taken away from that room, having less stimulus in that room, having somewhere where you can see only the screen and not being able to. So even like the work desk, or you can actually make a cardboard like desk around your laptop, where you're not able to see what is going around, so that the child is not getting as much distracted as possible. If the parents, every once in a while, just like how we advise that the teachers go and tap them and say, hey, are you okay, are you paying attention to what is happening. If the parents are able to do that with the child every maybe 15 minutes, just going and asking her, telling her to take regular breaks, as we would advocate even in school. So some things like that might be useful for the child. We don't know we said that she's on medications. Obviously, she needs to continue them, because online, classes are that much going to be that much more difficult for her anyway.
But at the same time, I find that the definition of lack of attention of different parents are not the same, and
Yeah,
that may not be
Yeah.
actually lack of attention.
Yeah.
What we actually see.
See, one
Bhushan,
thing
like
that can, yeah,
Universal.
yeah,
I think at the moment all of us are having that inattention, as you were saying. It's very easy to get distracted. I find myself as well. If there's a boring Zoom meeting going on, I'll do something else, because obviously that much more to do as well for all of us. So I think, yeah, that is there.
and this is not a tip for all those viewers to say that this is a boring meeting. This is a very interesting meeting. Please stay connected. Yeah, yeah, Bhushan.
See, I think there are one or two things that we could do to help these children with online classes. School has a very important function where the child's attention is held to the board by the teacher. There are a lot of other kids around, so there are tiny little distractions, but not too much. Another advantage that is there in school is that all the other distractions are taken away. So they don't have their screen in their hand. And though we crib about the school benches so much, they are not comfortable at all. So the child can't go off to sleep. Most of the children now who are sitting at home, and definitely from the privileged family, are doing their school attendance from the comfort of their own room with their own laptop. They're sitting in most comfortable chairs, air conditioned rooms, probably sitting on their beds with the toilet right next to them, and that can be really distracting. Some of the children, I have heard this from a lot of parents who found it useful, is that they are actually connecting their laptops or whatever those devices to the biggest possible screen in the living room. So the child is actually sitting in front of the TV, and instead of using a small laptop or phone screen, they are actually using TV, and there is family going about living their life around. So there is no privacy. Child cannot fall off to sleep, slouch in their chair, open something else and start playing. So the privacy goes away, which is what happens in real school. So again, as Sapna said, some children may benefit from a non-distracting environment sitting in their room. Some children will be better off under supervision of their parents. Some children are better off not given that kind of privacy. So I think as Dr. Jairam said right in the beginning, that parents know their children best. They know what works with their children, and that should be put to use. Multiple things should be tried out. There is no gospel truth about children. Parents have to try out various things and see what works.
Absolutely. And some kids love their mothers to be next to them and they do very well. And some kids want their mothers far away from them and they do much better. So
And
Ninjappa
one
is
more thing,
asking,
sorry,
yeah,
one more thing I want to
Bhushan,
add
go
into
ahead.
it. Please
Yeah.
also talk to that young girl. What is distracting her, what she is going through, what is
Inside
what
a
is
mind.
she is going through. उसकी जिंदगी में क्या दिक्कत आ रही है ना, क्या प्रॉब्लम आ रही है. हम सोच रहे हैं it may be because of environmental structure, maybe something else must be bothering that young girl.
Absolutely.
I had a child, child who comes to me. He gets distracted whenever he sees his friends on the online or teachers, and as soon as he sees his teachers, he starts remembering the things what happened with him in the school. The old memory starts coming and he gets distracted. He starts going into, he gets shut off. वो पूरा shut off हो जाता है उन सबको देखते ही, परेशान हो जाता है, and that's why he doesn't want to attend and doesn't want to get, he's not able to focus. So understand the child's world before we make our own hypothesis. That's very, very important. Second, one more thing is that we can also teach the youngster this like self instruction techniques. Very simple techniques are there. How she can stop herself and focus. And very, we know the self-instruction technique, like stop and focus. Telling to your own self, stop, focus, really works. And I've seen it works with a lot of ADHD kids. Start to teaching them self-monitoring and self-instruction really works. And third thing, talk to your psychiatrist. If medicine has to be modified, the timing of the medication has to be modified. Maybe the dose has to be modified in the right way. Sometimes I've seen in the last 2 months, when I've slightly modified the dose at the right timing, it has really worked very well. So all these three options decide whatever Dr. Sapna and Dr. Bhushan has said.
Absolutely. Jay, how to manage sibling rivalry on the background of lockdown with unlimited time for them keeping occupied? Any tips?
I think the answer is in the question really. I think keeping them occupied is very important. Number one, and we have to be very creative about the ways we can keep them occupied. Uh, Often, what the problem is that we often think of the same kind of activities throughout the day. So, if it is cooking together, then every day it has to be cooking together. So, I think adding some spice, adding some variety to the day keeps them occupied. Number two, one of the things which I tell all the people who come to me regarding sibling rivalry is that not to get involved and take sides unless it's a severe physical aggression that is being exhibited. Because my mother used to tell me that between me and my brother that until one of you kill each other, I won't get involved. So so that taught us problem solving skills. Usually it was about the amount of chicken or mutton which we would get during our Sunday meals. We would fight about it. So we had to. So my mother would say that if I distribute the portion, then my brother will have the first call which portion he will take. So so to basically what she was trying to do is to allowing us to solve the problem rather than getting herself involved in this whole tussle. So I think that's a useful strategy. Tell them that go into lock yourself in a room, come out with strategies, solve the problem yourself. I am not going to get involved. But also keeping them occupied, keeping them tasks in different ways is, I think, useful.
Pooja Madan, you want to say, anybody wants to say something? Pooja Madan Joshi says, we work for students with LD from government schools who do not have the luxury on Android phones and Wi-Fi. In this situation, what could we suggest to the parents or we as their facilitators, what can we do, considering they might just come back as blank slates after the pandemic? Very sensitive question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
can I just respond to that? I think, yeah, sorry.
Bhushan was saying something.
Oh, okay. No, sorry to cut you there, Jay. Thanks, Dr. Harish, for moderating that again for us. I think this is a very real life question. A lot of kids are going to struggle with this. And one thing that we are trying at clinic is actually giving telephonic instructions to parents and helping them do at least the basic exercises that therapist has told the child. So we are not aiming at enhancing the skills further. All we are doing is we are trying to prevent the deterioration, because this will eventually get over. I know that all the therapy centers and all of them are going to start a little bit late. They are not open just now because managing social distancing and all of that is going to be tricky in these centers, particularly with children who have difficulties. But helping parents to maintain the skills is really important. So a lot of fine motor work that is done at home, a lot of reading work that is done at home, and even writing work that can be done through parents. It is important to keep the children in action. We don't want them to stop doing their exercises altogether. So let us be slightly less ambitious. As Dattaji said in near Panipat, is that bachenge to aur bhi ladenge. So let us preserve our skills. Let us stay alive. We'll fight another day.
The Datta said that. I still remember that. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, a 13-year-old ADHD intelligent child does not want to study online. We have answered that. Spends more time with mobile. We have answered that. Do you agree that lack of time devoted to children is the main reason for most of the child-related medical issues which has shown by COVID? Is it that we do not spend time so kids might get medically ill? Yes, Sapna.
Medically ill, I'm not sure. They might have somatic symptoms like, they might have realistic symptoms like tummy ache, and which underlying issue is they are looking for attention from their parents. I think it is extremely important for young children to have that undivided attention from parents. There is nothing that can, replace that. N number of presents, money, nothing can replace the attention that children seek. And they will go to any extent. We have seen that in clinics, we have seen that in real life, that, children start crying, and when they have not been paying attention, they start crying more, they start head banging, they start all sorts of things. And only that, that positive attention from the parents will get. Why the negative behavior starts escalating is because we are, as parents, we very quickly respond to negative behavior rather than positive behavior. I think even teachers, for that matter, if the child is sitting quietly in one corner, I think, most even parents will, not pay that much attention to the child because we are then busy in other things. But as soon as the child starts crying or screaming, we are very quick to go and give that attention. So the child quickly learns to associate that, hey, if I want to get my mom's attention, the best way to do it is if I start screaming loudly, she's going to come quickly. So I think giving them attention irrespective, not waiting for that behavior to escalate, is the, key of getting children to behave appropriately, and also to, to keep them calm. I think, if for I'll just give an example of my household. We have a family time which is dedicated in the night, because both me and my husband are busy during the day. We It's not that my children are neglected, but that is a, that where we are not, we have a screen free time, all of that, and we are sitting there and playing with our kids. But that keeps them, held during the day, because they know in the night we are going to be there with them. So even if they have a hope that, they're going to get that attention, undivided attention from their parents, a lot of the problems, especially of behavior, can be solved. So I agree that it is extremely important in terms of medical problems. Actually physically being unwell, I'm not sure of, but there might be acting up of symptoms like tummy ache, headache, I'm not feeling well, to get that attention.
Absolutely. Isolation can cause mood changes, depression, and rejection also can cause the same, which can lead to physical symptoms. Fantastic. Now, before I ask you Raymond Powry's sensitive question, there's an overarching question from Gurmeet Arjani. What are the ways of developing mental well-being during COVID times with children?
Can I
Yeah,
take
yeah,
that?
anybody. Yeah, please, please, please.
Okay, I think as psychiatrists, we know a few things which are more harmful for the mind, and developing well-being has to start with reducing the harm first. So we typically know that helping children understand negative emotions, labeling negative emotions, knowing the name of the emotion, and helping the children stay with that child stay with that emotion is something that parents can definitely do. Labeling emotions, telling them that this emotion is negative emotion, this is going to take over your brain, it is going to make you do a lot of things, so just hang on there. You don't need to do anything actively right now, just wait till this emotion passes over. So helping the child to actually stay anchored during difficult time is something that is really important. One doesn't have to launch an action every time. Sometimes just waiting around helps, and this is an important skill for children to remember. Second skill that I have talked to sensitive parents who are willing to give in their time is to help children be disconnected for a certain time every day. Just sitting around, what we to talk about as mindfulness training, and that can start with children as young as 2 years and 3 years as well, but gradually increasing the time from 5 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minute, and taking it up to 10 minutes or 15 minutes, where children can learn mindfulness, where children can just sit in one place, disconnected from the all gadgets, not having any specific activity in space, but just observing what is happening in their mind, in their body, around them. So developing an ability not to reflexly react to everything that is happening around them is one of the greatest superpowers of mind. If you want to be really strong, this is what you need to learn. And I think it is possible for families to sit together and do that. A lot of parents insist on children doing meditation, and a lot of children absolutely hate meditation. So teaching them mindfulness through physical activities is something that parents can definitely take on. Whatever God's name that you associate with that is really irrelevant for children. It is the skill that is important. So let us play along with them and help them learn this mindfulness there. That can be a super skill.
Asan, put up.
I think I would just
I want everyone to answer this question. Yeah.
Yeah, I will just add 2 points to what Bhushan said. One is that children act like mirrors for their parents. So if parents are calm, they are not anxious, they appear to be in control and understand the situation well, children will definitely not be anxious. The other thing is that children might have very legitimate questions about corona, COVID, pandemic, when it is going to end. Uh, I always say that parents have to be absolutely honest and answer the questions to the best of their ability, and even say that none of us know about when this is going to end, rather than saying that iske bare mein nahi sochna, you don't need to think about it, and just brushing it under the carpet. So addressing the questions brought by the children honestly, I think helps, and then kind of looking for sources, reliable sources together, Googling the question, reliable sources like WHO, ICMR, and finding out the answers often help. And also parental attitude regarding how they are managing the whole situation is very important. One request is, again, as Bhushan said, not getting disconnected from time to time from social media. I have to say this: I loved Patal Ghar, where Hatiram Chaudhary. I don't know whether you have seen this. So he always says that ये तो पुरानों और किताब में लिखा है, मगर हम WhatsApp में ये पढ़े हैं. So I think we need to desist knowledge gained from WhatsApp. I think that is very important.
Sapna and Deepak. Yeah.
So I would agree with most of the points. I think, it is at this point in time, I cannot stress the importance of having family time together. And that has to be, undivided family time. There is no point in parents having their phones or screens on and getting distracted. I think undivided attention for children is something that is extremely, extremely important. And I'm not saying, you go hours together, but at least if you put aside half an hour to 1 hour in a day to be spending with their children, talking about things, getting, they might have lots of doubts which they might want to ask you, being there for them to be able to answer those questions. And honestly, so saying I don't know, it's okay. Like, as parents, I think we have a propensity to try to answer, be that ever knowing everything. How can a parent say that I don't know? But I think honestly, at this point in time, to say that it's okay, I don't know when this is going to end. Maybe grandpa might be unwell, maybe, because children have difficult questions and they can be really difficult for parents to answer. But to be as honest as you can be, in a child friendly manner, getting them to do, developing a hobby, because that is something that even as a parent, I think that keeps us sane. So spending some time in the day, I tell all my parents to have some me time, not doing the chores, not even, it could be just being as selfish as having 10 minutes of reading time. That is my me time, personally, because that just gives me the ability to then face the day the next day. So parents need to understand, they need to be calm and not be that anxious, and they need to look after themselves. Having children to do gratitude journals, I think it's a great way of getting them to think about what they have, and they have a lot of things to be thankful for. Is, even we need to be mindful about all the things that we need to be, and it could be simple things like having a roof on top of your head, having two meals that we don't have to fight for, having a family who's, I think, bothersome, but at least they are there for you. So little things about being what is there in your life to be grateful for. and get children to start thinking like that, rather than all the negative things about when do I go out, oh I'm feeling very bored, or I'm get them to start thinking, change their perspective. And that can come from parents as well, to get them do little things that slowly they start reflecting on things that might be useful, and maybe help them in their life, not just during COVID time but in the future as well.
I think besides all
Deepak?
three, yeah, all three have covered a lot of points, but two, three more points is that reflection about small conflicts. If some conflicts have happened throughout the day, if something a child is struggling with, just listen to his world, reflect back, and sharing about experiences that what I have also gone through, you're also going through, what is going on between two of us. And it's very, very important for parents to accept their own mistakes. I'm sorry, beta, I was wrong there. So accepting your own mistake, and then creating a path, creating a like openness in the environment for them to talk. Not saying कि मैं आपका father हूँ तो मैं ही right हूँ, नहीं. So वो एक giving that space and that openness and reflection and sharing can really, really help to sort of a thought process in them. One more thing is that, which already Bhushan said, I just want to add that thing is that along with that, when they're playing and all those things, try to be as much as creative and innovative. If something gets spilled off, something gets broken, doesn't matter. Let them experiment with things, but make sure that safety is also important. And when they're exploring and they be creative, innovative, a lot of things comes up which they don't expect to happen. Sometimes they can do something which they never thought of will happen. And recently, the ex-chairman of CBSC, in the month of April, now she has been moved to another department. She said the kitchen is the biggest laboratory. Your kitchen is the biggest laboratory. And if you can experiment as much as possible in kitchen, and you can do so many things, and that really helps you for your mental well-being. So there's so many ways which can be done to enhance mental well-being. But yes, please take care of your own self, and then you'll be able to take care of your own children.
Absolutely beautifully said. Sense of awareness, yoga, exercise, relaxation, and ability to laugh at themselves when they are wrong. I think enhances mental health phenomenally. Raymond Powry has been asking a question. My son is 5 years old and has ASD. A random time of the day he behaves aggressively and hyper all of a sudden. What to do in such cases? It may not have increased due to COVID. It just behaves randomly, and which is very normal with ASD patients. They would suddenly shout inside the class, and smart teachers have taught all of the children that this is something you can accept and allow it to pass. What do you feel, Jay?
I feel, ASD is autism spectrum disorder for people who are, wouldn't be aware of the acronym. I would say that again, I go back to the same script really. There has to be a reason why the child is behaving like this. And also, I would go out on a limb and say that if it is not causing too much disruption, if it is not causing too much disturbance, let him be, a bit hyper. Let him allow him that. He's a 4.5-year-old child. Uh, he's not going to, if it is not causing too much disturbance, let him be uh, a bit restless. Give him some room, give him some allowance so that he is able to uh, exhibit his restlessness, disturbed behavior, because often we try to clamp down and block everything. I think we should be sensitive about it. uh, Before suppressing the behavior, we need to look at the background story and only intervene if it is causing too much problems in his environment. But again, going back to the special educator teacher is, I think, a good idea.
I go back to Tushan and Sapna. My son is only listening to music the entire day on phone. Very rarely he will do anything. Also, his sleeping time is very late. Amit Khosla's son has autism.
So maybe music is something that has a calming effect on him. With children with autism, what we realize is, they need that sense of control. So maybe that is something that is calming him down. But also, as I was saying earlier, having a structure, having a routine, getting him to think about things that he will be doing during the day, to make a, a calendar, a timetable for him. Limiting the time, for example, on music, it could be used almost like a positive reinforcer, that every after every hour of or every 30 minutes of doing something, he gets his music back, almost like a reward to doing the other things, lot of appreciation of doing the other things that are out of his comfort zone. What helps with autistic children is having an alarm system, so giving them a headway of 15 minutes. Okay, now your music is going to end after 15 minutes. Okay, another 10 minutes, another 5 minutes, so they are mentally prepared that an activity that he loves is going to end, because that transition from something that an autistic child loves to something that they are not willing to do is always going to be difficult. So giving them enough warnings, almost to say like a timer or something with an alarm, to say that this is what is going to, and also that visual cue. Okay, now I'm after the music, I'm going to be doing this. After this, again, I'm going to get music. So having a proper structure which he can also, and you keep consistently going at it. Maybe it will take some time, it's not going to work overnight, if he's used to being listening to the music all the time. But maybe slowly and gradually getting him to do something might be a good idea. Again, sleep, I think Bhushan has always already talked about sleep hygiene, about what helps, those environmental cues about, okay, we are going to start winding down almost at, if you want to go, want him to go to bed at 11 o'clock, by 9 o'clock we start doing activities which are more calming, so no screen time, getting him to, like, closing the curtains, making the room dark, uh, getting him into bed clothes, so the bodily responses as well, to show that we are getting used to the bedtime. Having a bedtime routine with children with autism is definitely helpful, because then they are animals of structure almost. They know then that, okay, once I brush my teeth, then I'm going to be reading for some time, then I'm going to go to bed. So following that structure every day is going to be something that is going to be helpful. So consistency, structure, and lots of visual cues are something that might be helpful for this child.
My son is busy on the PUBG. He's shooting everybody. But that is something we answered, Bhushan. You want to say something? You do? Do you also play PUBG, Bhushan? Once in
No,
a while.
I don't play PUBG at all. My addiction is my books. So yes, that is my PUBG. This is a very difficult situation that a lot of parents are facing now, because at least when the schools were on, the tuitions were on, children were going out. They were distracted. They had specific activities, and now there is huge amount of empty time on hand. Parents are busy in their work, and children are left fend for themselves. And a lot of children are taking advantage of the situation and catching up on their lost levels on PUBG. So this is not an easy situation, and unfortunately, like all complicated problems, there is no painless solution to this. So let us not even assume that we are going to find a solution to game addiction or overuse of game, which is absolutely painless. This is not a surgery that is going to happen under anesthesia. So getting into a clear behavioral contract with the child, helping the child adhere to the contract, encouraging them, praising them when they manage even small steps of the contract, and be willing for a crisis sometimes when that happens. A lot of parents try to avoid crisis at all costs, and that really costs them. I know where they are coming from. Parents have a lot of concerns, particularly they hear things that a child was not allowed to play the game and something terrible happened from the child. Parents do have that fear, and I perfectly understand that as a parent myself. But showing that kind of courage, getting professional help will really help in this situation. But please do not expect a painless solution. This is a complicated issue. This takes time, and this definitely goes through a few stations which are quite painful.
Absolutely. And never be upset with a tantrum. A tantrum is an opportunity to instill values. Uh, Jay, how we can reassure children during panic attacks or anxiety attacks? Many parents too are facing anxiety, and that also is passed on to the children. As people have said, anxiety travels much faster than the coronavirus.
Absolutely. I
So,
think
what?
then parents see what they are anxious about, because I think many parents we are seeing now these days do have very, very, very genuine reasons for becoming anxious. They are either worried about the health of their parents who might be elderly, they might be worried about their economic situation. So there is this whole host of reasons which can cause anxiety in parents. Many parents, they do have pre-existing anxiety problems which might be increased during this period. So therefore, I think we need to understand why the parent himself or herself is feeling anxious, and how we can again share these things openly with children. See, children are very, very minute observers of their parental behavior. So if they feel that the parent is feeling anxious and trying to hide something, they will become more anxious. So again, coming clean that these are the reasons why we are worried about, but we will all stick together and find out the solution, I think is the best way forward. Often what happens is that parents try to hide their anxiety, they don't come clean. Children are aware of that. Parents, they ask more questions, parents get irritated, and then there is this cycle of arguments, irritability. I think we have to break the cycle and again acknowledge that during these times anxiety is very, very normal. In fact, being anxious will protect us and encourage us to take certain steps which will prevent getting the infection, modify our lifestyle so that we can survive in the future. So I think again, conversations, if we have to summarize the entire conversation we have had till now, I think one of the key thing is that conversations, open and honest with children, are the best medicine. And India has got such a rich tradition in katha and storytelling, and therefore we need to go back to the past and again start having conversations with all of us, all the people around us. I think that will allay the anxiety.
Absolutely. And I'm very happy to tell you that your friends are watching this show. Dr. Kersi Chowda, Dr. Anita Sukhwani, Dr. Rita Sonawat are all looking up at you all to learn a lot. Deepak, there's a beautiful question. My daughter is 5.5 years old. She's adopted. She gets very insecure when the mother pays a little more attention to the child's cousin. And this adopted child beats the cousin. The cousin's mother, the aunt, does not allow her child to play with this adopted child. And then there's a lot of heartburn within the family, and there's a lot of dynamics. How should the mother of this child manage this entire problem? How should she make her own child be friendly with the other child? How should she explain to the aunt? I mean, it's a complex problem.
Yeah,
But
definitely it doesn't have a simple answer, but yes, what can be done now? Various steps. First step is that, as mother said, the child is adopted. I think important is that somewhere we need to see whether does the mother have a mental block that it's an adopted child. A lot of times I've seen when parents comes to me with a child who is adopted, they always either they are too conservative or too open. They don't know that keep a balance, and they a lot of have a fear a lot of times that if the child is adopted they may do something wrong, or they may do something which is not right for the child. So first thing I will say, treat this child as if like a absolutely like your own child, and treat him like as if be like a natural parent, play with him, enjoy with him, and that will help you to bond between you and your child. Second thing is that the relationship between your child and the cousin. The important thing is that mother has to work on that particular aspect. How she can work, one thing is that when the child is their second child, she can, as Jay was talking about sibling rivalry part, the mother can be just sitting there, and just sitting be there and trying to be like a referee or an umpire, neutral umpire. And whenever the child is trying to do this thing, at that point of time interfere and then guide them, channelize them, like, and give small reflections. Oh wow, okay, now, now. And the small cues which the mother will speak at that point of time will direct both of them. So she can help to bond both of them. The third thing, which again he told about the katha, the storytelling, social stories. Telling the social stories to children can really help to build up their social behaviors. So mother can tell stories to child, how when she does it, how when the child hits the child, how does the child must be feeling. So these three things. The fourth thing which I also want to emphasize, the role of media. how much the media must be contributing. A lot of times, watching aggressive cartoons, aggressive stuff on the on the media sometimes also can lead to aggression in children. So these are the four aspects which can be done to help this young child. One more thing which suddenly came to me is that, again, focus on the positive behaviors of the child. Whenever the child is behaving very well with their cousin, whenever the child is playing very well with the child, that time appreciate him, acknowledge him, that. So to gain the positive attention to the right behavior can really help. And sixth thing, at her own level, with her sister-in-law, she can have a talk and just say, okay, let's both of us try to build up a good environment in the house, and let's try to make things congenial and very good. So that way, the both of them can help both the children. So it has to be a lot of family work. A lot of family work has to be done. No single magic solution.
Absolutely, both of you have said the katha, and everybody has said stories help families to connect. Stories helps pass nuanced messages and nuanced values, and glories disconnect. Stories connect. Sometimes parents take this message very wrongly. You guys have said, please share your stories, and they start, मैं छोटा था, हमारे घर गरीब था, हमने क्या किया तुम्हें पता है. So this chest thumping glories don't work. It is the sensitive stories that work. And what a beautiful way of saying that katha and stories really are tectonic shifts in parenting. There is a question. There's not a question. Ashok Shah, doctor, is happy to say that his autistic son Aditya is conducting Zoom sessions for the family and is extremely functional. Pratima is very happy to say that my functional son, 23 years with autism, is doing very well in college, learning cooking, taking more responsibilities in household, getting ready for learning driving. I think he has matured more in lockdown. He is very appreciative of what we all are doing, etc. He's concerned of his health, eats healthy, exercise, and follows CDC advice on COVID precautions. Fantastic, fantastic. Now, this frustration during a COVID epidemic. There's a lot of domestic violence stories are slowly coming out in China, in Italy, in USA. Very few stories I have heard in India. But when children see violence in front of them at a small age, under 10, under 12, what is the impact they would have across their life? Bhushan, Sapna, anybody can start.
I think children are like sponges. They, unfortunately, pick up everything, sometimes said, sometimes unsaid as well. And if we are, children learn from their parents. For them, parents or people elder in the family that they see are the role models. So, whatever you do for them, if their parent does it, it is the right thing to do. So if you hit the child, the next thing the child is going to learn is it is okay to hit. If you're frustrated and you hit the child is definitely going to go and imitate that behavior outside. I think not just domestic violence is obviously a very very serious issue. Even the when parents fight in front of the children, I think it somewhere has a huge impact on the child, because they know then sometimes that they can easily split between the parents. They very well learn. They're very good learners, I would say. As children, they can easily, like, go to mom and say, this is what I want, or this is, because they learn that family, the parents are not one unit. For when we are talking about behavioral issues, when we are talking about anxiety, when we are talking about growing up, adolescent, the normal adolescent phase as well, I think what works very well is having consistency, having parents being on the same page. They might agree to disagree, but it has to be behind closed doors. So the best way to do it is, if mom thinks that this child needs to go for if the child comes and says, I want to go to this party, mom doesn't agree, dad agrees, but come to a mutual conclusion together before giving that decision to the child. Don't immediately say yes or no. So having, it is very very important that parents keep a united front in front, in front of the children, because otherwise they are going to quickly learn to take advantage of it. Obviously, domestic violence, any kind of physical, if you hit the child, or you start shouting at the child, you will quickly learn that that is what the child is going to go back and do to their friends. When they are older, they're going to go and do it to yourself. So please be careful about how you portray what is happening in front of the child.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
agree
I
with
think
you.
what is also very important is the memories they'll carry about the violence they have seen in childhood.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
going to
I
be,
think
yeah.
that. Mm.
I think they're just going to have that as traumatic, even when they grow up, that's definitely going to remain in their minds. We see a lot of adults who remember, their traumatic childhoods very clearly, and how it impacts when we talk about anxiety, when we talk about depression. We see a lot of adults now, when they come retrospectively, talking about the abuse that they have faced or seen or witnessed when they were children. So it does have a huge impact. Sorry, Bhushan. Yeah.
No. I think you have covered the ground very well. I entirely agree with you that sometimes the impact of abuse and environment is not immediate, because some children will simply shut down and take it all in and keep observing. Some children will choose who they want to identify with in that family, and many times children will prefer to be safe than anything else. So they may even end up identifying with the aggressor, identifying with the abuser at that point of time. Their initial attachment patterns who they were close to can get disrupted because of the sudden abuse there. Some children are reporting that they are feeling more safe because the external environment was more dangerous for them. The abuse or the negative experiences were either in the school or it was outside the home, so they are feeling much better. Children who had difficult experiences in the home are in a terrible situation now, because now they are absolutely exposed to the abuser and there is no place to escape, there is no distraction, there is no normal friendship, there is no normal school. So I think at least one adult in the family has to be sensitive to this child's needs. Creating a normal relationship for such a child can be absolute lifesaver. So if you are in a situation where you have a child like that in your family and you cannot really stop the abuse, because situation can be really complex, you may not have the power to stop that abuse right at this point of time. So forming a normal, trusting, reasonable relationship with the child, giving the child at least some sense of normality in at least one relationship in their life, where they are respected, where they are cherished, where they can express themselves, itself can save the child to an extent. Of course, the ideal solution is always stopping that abuse, stopping that trauma for the child, but in some situations that may not be always possible.
Absolutely. Do you agree that there is increase of domestic violence? Have you seen, have you heard in the cases around lockdown? Anybody?
Yes, that
I
is
think
happening, Ashish. That is for sure. That it is working like a stress test, and things that were already stretched are getting broken. And so yes, there is a lot of initial phase. People were quite all right, probably for a week or 10 days. But now, as we are moving ahead, things can come apart which were already broken or where the fault lines were barely covered. So I agree with that. That if this continues, we are going to see an avalanche of interpersonal difficulties. Sorry, Jay, I'll mute it here.
Yeah, I think the NCW data, the National Commission for Women's data, shows that domestic violence calls have increased significantly during this period, and it is reflected in a lot of the news which are being covered. Uh, I think also not getting alcohol, being stuck up at home, also financial difficulties is causing a lot of stress. And as all, as both Sapna and Bhushan said, see, we cannot really underestimate the impact of domestic violence on the minds of children. It is enormous, it is deep seated, and it can be frighteningly long lasting. In my experience of seeing children who have witnessed this, there are two clusters. One, where we are able to reach out to the parents and talk to them, say that, you might be having differences, but both of you love your kid. So therefore, you need to modify your ways. Otherwise, your child will be suffering deep psychological impacts. And fortunately, in many of those situations, we are able to address the core issues and reduce the domestic violence. Unfortunately, in a very large proportion, uh, many of the husbands, I must say, are completely disregard what is happening in the house and continue to remain violent, abusive. And at those situations, we need to empower the mother. We need to empower the non-abusive carer with means, with Bhushan said, and somehow strengthen the dyad of the child and the non-abusive carer so that they survive the journey with whatever community resources, whatever help is possible.
I think beautifully said. And this is a very big issue. And a child might grow up to do a PhD. He might be in a fantastic job, but there's one gap in his mind, one lacune in his mind, which exposes him to other interpersonal issues in the family. You were saying something about EMDR. Deepak, you do some EMDR also on,
Yes, yes.
on children with trauma. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I work with a lot of children and I use this therapy, eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing, one of the trauma therapies which is recommended by WHO also. And a lot of children comes to me. I won't say about right now, but yes, over the years I've seen so many children and I've been using it EMDR for more than 10 years now. And when they come up, as Sapna said, that a lot of trauma they're holding on to it, and some are holding of a bullying issue, some have they witnessed a domestic violence, some of them have been abused, and when they were 4, 5, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. And as Bhushan rightly said, it may be immediate impact or long-term impact. And when they come with a lot of anxiety, depressive features, low self-esteem, self-harm, a lot of self-harm, sleep issues, nightmares. And when you go to the core issue, you pick up that memory and you work through EMDR. It's a very fascinating therapy. And when you work through them, EMDR, you're able to work on the hardcore memories and you're able to desensitize and reprocess that memory. Correct? So it's a very fascinating process of EMDR. So anybody who's interested can go to emdrindia.org and learn about it. It's a very, very great therapeutic tool, which is
Absolutely, absolutely. And along with that, CBT, REBT, neuro
absolutely.
linguistic programming, and there are so many therapies. And what the message is, please deal with your memories if it's affecting your life as of now as an adult. Two sensitive questions I would like to ask you. There are a lot of single parents in the cities of the country and in the villages, and they face huge challenges managing everything single-handedly without any family support. In certain situations, children do get irritated for not having siblings or any family support, especially during this lockdown, and to deal with one single parent at the time. Getting child to be engaged and connected with their friends is a good idea, or you suggest any other alternative. And when the single parent is working, it's really very tough, very sensitive question. Anybody can start. Bhushan, Sapna.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
happy to answer. Yeah. So, yes, Dr. Shetty, we know the plight of single parents. We see that in family courts all the time. And even in our practice. So it is not an easy position to be, even in best of the situation, and particularly in stressful situation like this, it gets even more complicated. My suggestion to single parents is that we need to limit our own expectations from ourselves in this situation. I see a lot of single parents really struggling, stretching themselves beyond the point, and having a huge agenda of doing what two parents are required to do. As you said right in the beginning, that it takes a village to raise a child. Here you are a single parent, and taking on that kind of Shiva Dhanushya is not an easy job. It's not a human job, so don't even attempt for it. Let us stay focused on what can be reasonably achieved. What are the positive interactions that are possible? What are the basic absolute necessities? Many single parents struggle to discipline their children as well because they are really worried that if I become the disciplinarian, then where does the child go? We have to realize that our children are very forgiving. They do love us. They may not have the way to express it in the way that we understand their love, but they do love us. It is absolutely okay to do whatever is right. Sometimes, even when it is difficult for the child or stress inducing, it is absolutely fine. Have a faith in yourself. You have looked after that child for so many years, and you will continue to do that. Children are aware of that. So, have faith in yourself. Be nice to yourself. Let the child see that you are also looking after yourself. Try to make them your partners in that difficulty without too much of disturbance in the power balance that exists between a parent and a child. So you are doing already a great job as a single parent. Do not try to pile on more on your own plate and like make your own life difficult.
Absolutely. Anybody would want to add, because it's a very sensitive issue. I would like each one of you to say something about it. Yeah.
I want to get a
Sapna?
different perspective. I completely agree with Bhushan. I just want to, when we were talking at the beginning about different cultures and how, how supportive, I think I want to get the employer's perspective here about how, as employers, possibly we need to be a little bit more, reflective and accommodating towards parents with, either single parents or parents with special needs children, or parents who are struggling with making things work. Maybe having a little bit more understanding and support from the employers might go a long way in getting that loyalty back from your employee as well. So as single parent, I agree that probably you'll have to the work life balance. I have done a lot of webinars about not having that rigid work life division at the moment, where unfortunately or fortunately, I think our life and work has to become a little bit more fluid. So maybe giving a little bit more time during the day, even if you're working, so taking a 5-minute break and using the break that naturally will come during the working hours to give it to your child might be helpful here. But I also, as a society, as a culture, I think we need to look at being more sensitive and accommodating towards single mothers, single parents, or parents with special needs children, because it is the need of the hour. Maybe as a society we need to reflect back on it.
And to really share some good work done by the principal judge at the Thana High Court. They called up single parents, found out if they had any ration. They linked them with the legal aid cell and NGOs, and sent food to so many families. They also saw to it that if there was some interim maintenance which had to be paid, they cut all the bureaucratic red tape and saw to it that came to them, and they could share it with the parent who required. I think there are a lot of compassion, a lot of support is essential. But one thing also, a single parent should not feel guilty.
Absolutely.
That is the most
Guilt free.
important thing. Single
Absolutely.
parents should not feel ashamed. There should not be self pity. And if she or he is in agony, he should heal his agony with the psychologist or with the counselor, so that he becomes more reflective, and he would not want to achieve as much as Bhushan said beautifully. Anything else with both of you, Deepak and Jairanjan?
See, because the guilt, removing the guilt-free life is very important, because that gets reflect on the child. If the parent is feeling guilty constantly and constantly feeling bad about it, so that gets constantly reflected into relationship and the parenting part also. And small issues become big issues. And as a child grows into a teenager, and adolescent and teenager, it lots goes into defiance. That's very important. And second, one thing, be truthful to your child. Again, I'm telling that point. When because as a child is growing up, he may ask you 100 questions. Be truthful to your child. Don't underestimate the potential and ability of a child. He may know a lot of things from neighbors or from other cues. So be truthful. And third, one more thing is I've seen is, which works very well, is mobilizing the social support system. Definitely, as Sapna said about taking help from the employers, but mobilizing your friends, your cousins, your neighborhood, that can also help you. So mobilizing the social support system is very important. So these are the two other points which I want to emphasize.
Jay?
I think that in my experience, majority of the single parents are much more kinder and reflective parents than couples who come to us. So I think they need to hold on to that fact that they are far more thoughtful. They are doing millions of things which couples do together, and just be aware of that. And surprisingly, most children, when single parents come to us with these kind of problems, are they being a good enough mother? Most children acknowledge that they think very highly of their mothers. although they are not directly speaking it out. So I think just having that conversation, that am I doing enough? Do you think, how can we change our communication pattern? And encouraging the child to be, as Bhushan said, to be a partner in solving many of the issues helps. But overall, single parents are far more proactive in addressing problems in their children.
Absolutely, and I was just speaking about the court. I was mentioning the Thana family court, which did all this wonderful things, and what is also very important about single parent is that bringing a network of single parents together. That really works. I run a WhatsApp group of single parents, and they solve all the problems. Initially, I have to intervene for small issues, and then I don't, now today I don't have to do much unless there is a major issue which is psychiatric in origin. Otherwise, anything which happens, they run around, they meet each other, they talk to each other, and they solve a lot of problems. So getting support, making support groups of single men and single women separately
Very
is a
true.
very interesting idea, and it really works. As we slowly close, there are one or two questions. Rajiv Gupte, Captain Rajiv Gupte from Pune says sexual abuse to a child is not long lasting, but it's permanent for sure. One cannot get over it. What is your advice to such children who have lived through it and now are adults? Anybody, Bhushan, Sapna? Bhushan start, Sapna will follow.
Sure. Yeah, I think sexual abuse does get extremely complex, and it is not about how long it lasted or how complex it was. What did it do to the mind of the child gets really complicated, and that depends on person, their circumstances. So if you are an adult now, and if you have experienced child abuse, I think it is really important to get help for one simple reason, that moving from the victim state of mind to a survivor state of mind, from survivor moving on to having a full life and a thriving life, are important steps, and they do need help. There are a lot of complex emotions associated with that. There is anger, there is guilt, there is shame, there is a lot of sadness about it, and all of this keeps on pulling you into that whirlwind of difficult emotions. So if you think that these are intrusive memories, these are difficult emotions, they are even affecting, they are like a magnet in your pocket, that no matter what kind of compass you hold in your hand, it always cues your direction. Then it is important to get help. It is possible to get help no matter how complex the abuse was. Help is always available. So get that help and free yourself. Don't let that abuse become a final statement of your life. Don't let it define what you want to be. Help is available in definitely in all big cities, but now that we have realized that even e-help also works very well, particularly in counseling where face to face contact is not really necessary. So do get help and free yourself.
And Childline 1098 is
Right.
also a number that will help you to really access help across the country. Thus, now art, ये number है 1098. I would like others also to comment on this question because you all have different experience. Sapna?
I'll just say that it is as Bhushan said an extremely complex scenario, and it is long standing. I agree that it is very very difficult to completely get over it, but doesn't mean that you will not lead on to form meaningful relationships and lead a meaningful life where with therapy. I think I have had people in therapy. What happens is, as Bhushan has rightly said, the mindset changes. You work through your emotions, and you also get the perspective, because sometimes when children are abused, they are in a state of helplessness. And mostly, as we all know, that the abuser is somebody in a state of authority. So when they come to therapy, I think their perspective changes of having that control back, and working through all of that emotions. I have seen lot of adults, as we were talking, who have now come out with after forming a good rapport with the therapist, they are able to then talk about the abuse that they have had in the past, and very very successfully work through that trauma, and go on to live very meaningful lives. uh, the trauma will be there as part of them, not saying in any way that, or giving false hopes that it will be completely free of it. But I am saying that it is very possible to put that trauma somewhere on the back of your mind, not let it affect your life, and that is very much possible.
Uh, Jay and Deepak.
Uh, as everyone knows that this is a very complex issue and the damages are long lasting, can be long lasting. But I think in therapy, in treatment, what I have learned is that first we need to, the person has to overcome the guilt somehow, where he or she believes that they are partly responsible, they are wholly responsible. So I think that is something which needs to be completely deleted from their minds. It is a terrible thing which was inflicted upon them by people who were completely merciless. So I think getting rid of the guilt is one of the main processes through which healing comes. The other very large part is changing the way we view ourselves. So, from a victim to a survivor, and where we bring out stories of resistance, courage. Even talking about your abuse is such a difficult task. And when people come to us with, when they are able to talk, we say that, look, this is something which millions of people, many of us, haven't been able to do so. So we try and pick stories of courage, stories of resistance, stories of empowerment, even during very dark days, which enables the person to see himself or herself in a different light and really redefine themselves. So they are not just being defined by something terrible which has happened in the past. Yes, it was something which had happened, but a human mind, a human psyche is made up of millions of things, and this is only a small, terrible part which they need to, accept and move on.
Thank you. Deepak?
So I'll summarize in three A's. Like first A is awareness, second A is acceptance, and third A is taking action. Correct. So important thing. A lot of time when we are going through this trauma, we have gone through this trauma, we are not aware of it, that it is impacting us, and we keep on living with it. So getting that awareness that it is impacting us, it is impacting our physical health, mental health, it is impacting our relationships. So awareness about that thing is very very important, and then accepting it, that something is going on, I need to work on it. A lot of time people have awareness but they don't accept it, and that's why they don't take the actions. And the action can be multifolded. It can be through self-help groups, it can be through online therapy sessions, it can be through like EMDR, it can be going to a psychiatrist or psychologist. A lot of things can be done, and right as Jay said, to work on the guilt, because they keep on living with guilt. I remember a lady whom I met almost 10 years back. She came to you from USA and she was doing some training here. And she said, I'm right now 64 and abuse happened to me 40 years back. I'm still living with it, and I think I will take this abuse with me to my graveyard. So people live it for years and years and they are not able to come out of it. इसीलिए उसको छोड़ना बड़ा मुश्किल है, ऐसे भूषण से मैग्नेट की तरह चिपक जाता है वो. तो इसलिए 3 A's पे काम करो. Accept, awareness, accept and take right actions. Lot of help is available. Lot of help is available. We can really come out with it, come out of it.
Absolutely. And if it's your daughter, your son, remember one thing, advocacy is important. Seeking justice is also healing. And do not brush it under the carpet. Children also ask their parents after long, why did you not take action against the person? I still have a man, 38-year-old man, who says he cannot wear full pants, he cannot wear shorts in his gym because he feels he'll get sodomized. He cannot wear short clothes at all. And he still asks his father, why did you not take action against our chartered accountant who abused me at the age of 7? So advocacy also adds flavor to the entire thing. As we slowly close our session with the last question, Madan Joshi is asking, though before that, there's one question which one of you should answer. The person is asking me repeatedly, school refusal on a Monday morning. One of you can answer that quickly. Sakkal is so. Monday morning, I also don't want to go to my work here.
I've been wondering about school refusal during the pandemic. One of the girls whom I see for social anxiety is so happy that she doesn't
Yeah.
have to go to school, is doing online classes, and she says that I can ask questions and I'm so free, I'm not being fat shamed, and I hope the pandemic lasts forever. Uh, so what will it do to the pandemic? Will do to school refusers is something which is a major worry, really. But again, there are no easy answers. School refusals have a lot of reasons behind it. Many of the times, the children are temperamentally anxious. In my experience, they overthink. Often, they are perfectionist. Often, there are marital problems, so that they stick close to the mother. Often, there are many somatic, physical symptoms which needs to be addressed. So, there is no one, size which fits all. Uh, and I always tell my colleagues that if you dislike someone, send him a school refuser. So I think those are very tough challenges. So, but again, we have to act as Sherlock Holmes, look into the reasons, and try and find a solution.
But
And
sometimes I've
Absolutely.
taken, yeah,
Yeah,
advocacy
go ahead, go
also
ahead.
with
absolutely.
school
Just
is very, very
sorry,
important. Liaising
sorry,
with
Jay.
school.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So sorry, Jay. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I was just saying. A lot of times, just small, especially in children like 5 years, 6 years, the smaller children, just simple environmental manipulation. Simple environmental manipulation with teachers or with friends, or just making a small change in early morning can really let them come out of the school anxiety and school refusal, especially Monday morning blues. Simple environmental manipulation, and that's what I've seen that.
absolutely. You're saying something, Jay. I stopped you.
Yeah,
Jay, you're
no,
saying
and
something.
so often kind of, there are many, in all age groups, there are certain dadas and didis and who take care of so finding a advocate for the child in the class, so you tag that child along with a buddy who takes care of the child and often helps. And school liaison, I think, is very, very important for school refusal.
Absolutely. And Hemangi Dhaule, ex-head of the department, Nair Hospital Department of Psychiatry, has thanked you all for this beautiful session. He said congratulations to each one of you. But I would like to add something on school refusal. Let us understand that advocacy here is also important. And in school refusal, unless the schools support
Very
the
true.
family, it's very difficult for the school, for the child to go back to school. And here, after explaining to the school, using all your methods to help your school understand, you need to understand that child rights is very important, and the child cannot be thrown out of school. I would plead to psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers that your job does not end by counseling, healing, psychological testing. Your job only ends when you see to it that the child is repatriated, or is
Absolutely.
back to school. And for that, you may have to go to the school, meet the principal, you may have to talk to a lawyer, you might have to talk to a Child Rights Commission of the state or the National Child Rights Commission. I think we need to do that without hesitation, and that is a message I need to say. Last question, and we leave. Uh, uh, Madan Joshi said, will social distancing lead to emotional distancing in children? Because I'll tell you what's happening when I'm working. I'm working every day, even after the lockdown, and it's very difficult to express your emotion. They can see only your eyes, even a child, and they can only listen to your tone of your voice, and it's so difficult to establish a rapport with the child in these times. So what are the tips and techniques you would advise, because you're all experts in the field?
Yeah, I think it is quite heartbreaking to do therapy in these days. Play therapy is something which is very close to my heart. And the day I went back to clinic in the lockdown, I realized that I cannot play with the children anymore. A, because of social distancing, and B, because sanitizing the entire playroom is an absolute nightmare. I'll be able to do only one session. But I'm really looking forward to the time that one day this all will get over. We all are designed to emotionally connect. It is not possible for us to stay emotionally away from each other. So this will be over. I don't know whether this will take 6 months or 1 year, but we will be back. We all will be back, and we will emotionally connect again. We will hug each other. We will smile at each other. And as you very rightly said, all other medical specialties can practice behind a mask, psychiatry cannot. And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that very soon these masks will go away and we all will be with our patients with our full face and full ourselves there again.
Others, Sapna?
So I don't like virtual sessions. I'm probably an old timer in regards to that. So I agree that
Be careful. You heard what she said, huh? Viewers, she's an old timer. Regards to that only. Yeah.
yeah, I like my face-to-face sessions. I will put my hands up to it, that and own that. I'm a child psychiatrist. At the end of the day, I like seeing my children. Like sitting on the floor with them and playing with them. So there's a reason why I think we all took up child psychiatry. But I think let the social distance not let the physical distance not become social distancing. I keep saying, so even if it is virtually, let the children have those sessions, have those family Zoom meetings, let them meet their friends once in a while over Skype or Zoom meetings, whatever they're doing. So even if it's physically distance, let's not get come make that come. This beautiful thing about people being on the balcony and waving to each other, I think my kids love that, because they can at least see people across and they wave and they're very, very happy to see people. So even there is a physical distance. I'm hoping that that somewhere we can manage to keep that social distance going, and looking forward to, as Bhushan was saying, getting back into the clinic and actually, because even in this time, I have some queries from parents. Parents are so scared about whether they can hug their children. So I keep telling my parents that so long as you don't have any symptoms and you're asymptomatic, it's perfectly fine to hug children. So I really had this query from a few parents about, is it okay to, because they're so scared and anxious. So, but yeah, children need that. So let it not come in the way.
Jay and Deepak.
I think I agree with Vishan. This too will pass, really. And I'm often, often my query is that if someone is not coughing and sneezing, and if you maintain adequate social distance, then uh, can we? Because I was reading a New York Times article which was on use of face masks. So can we? Do we have to use the face mask even if we are sitting at great distances? So I think that is a query I have. But this too will pass, really.
And what I'll say that the parents don't have to get apprehensive about it. You don't have to maintain a social distance inside the house. You all are asymptomatic. You're living, enjoy with them, have a good gala time, and when you go out of the house, that is the time you have to maintain a physical distance of at least 2 gaj or 6 feet ka. So don't worry about that, and that will not lead to any emotional issues. So, and try to connect with people as much as possible in your own world, in your own neighborhood, in your area, virtually, by talking to them, by talking to relatives, the grandparents. So that's the way. So this physical distance is different from social distancing. So be careful of that. And as everybody said, this time definitely will pass away, and definitely will again start hugging each other and start shaking hands again. And I'm sure that time will come back. But before that, namaste is important.
So I think fantastic messages given by all four of you. Katha, story. Nothing happens because of nothing. Bachenge to ladenge. I think you took me back to history, because history was my favorite subject then and even today I read. And reinforcement, having a discipline, having a routine. So many million messages came out from all four of you, one after the other. But what is very important is each one of you said that being honest to your children, having courage to face their tantrum, modifying their behavior little by little when it comes to phones, reinforcements, positive and negative, using all the resources of the universe to raise your child, not being unusually watching the child with the mirror of illness. But remember, children are resilient and they rise to the occasion and they have risen to the occasion. And whenever the child is down, his behavior is not understandable. What is extremely important is not to pick up the phone to the astrologer, but to call a friendly neighborhood counselor, psychologist, or psychiatrist. And that, I think, is the message from all four best psychiatrists in the country, best child psychiatrists in the country. I don't know how to say thank you because English is a very poor language. Do I say it in Bengali? How do you say it in Bengali? Thank you. Jay, what's the word?
ধন্যবাদ
Dhanyawad. And how do you say in Konkani, Sapna?
We say dhanyavad.
Konkani में काय का धन्यवाद सपना नायक नो वेयर इज धन्यवाद इन कोंकणी यार
Konkani, I don't know. I've given up. I'm married to a Maharashtrian now.
and भूषण काय म्हणायचं आपण
धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद एंड दीपक जी आपको थोड़ी हिंदी
शुक्रिया.
आती है या
शुक्रिया.
या मारवाड़ी आती है
Shukriya, shukriya.
Yeah, we thank all the viewers who are there with us and really gathered all the insights. I thank Anirudh Sapatnekar for really posting this all the time. Anirudh Sapatnekar is MS in from the United States of America. He held a job there. He left everything to start a small app because when his father fell sick, he did not find any case papers. He did not know what his father was suffering from. So he has told himself that he will create an app so that every family member will have all the medical papers of their parents on their phone. So with that philosophy, Anirudh Sapatnekar left USA and came to India. His father, Dr. Sapatnekar, was a professor of PSM in JJ Hospital and was a research director at Lilavati Hospital till he retired. So thank you, Anirudh, and thank you all of you all for a brilliant session, insightful, historical, cultural, and so many peripheral gyan which interspersed and weaved itself with mental health science. I think it was a brilliant session. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
joining.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Are we
you.
live or we're over? Anirudh?
No,
Yeah,
we are
we're just
still-
ending it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
End it. We'll say